The stories presented in this video are real, but we have changed the characters' names and altered images to protect their identities. The creator of this video is not an investigative officer. These narratives have been sourced from various internet platforms. Our intent is not to accuse or target anyone in particular. Thank you for understanding.
The famous art dealer and socialite Sofi Alexander was found dead on her foyer's marble floor on March the 6th, 2019. Her corpse was in a spooky attitude, as though the murderer had taken great care in positioning it. The numerous knife wounds on her chest seemed nearly surgical, suggesting that she had been murdered. Her eyes were fixed on something, as if she had sensed her own death was near, and a little pool of blood had appeared around her like a black halo. Standing there in amazement with her husband, Daniel Alexander, were the William couple, Ethan and Rhea. The maid of the Alexanders stood behind them, startled by what they saw. When the police started looking into the murder, they had no idea how shocking the secret they would discover would be. As the CEO of Alexander's Industries, Daniel was a powerful figure in the corporate world, renowned for his shrewdness and determination. He was born in Chicago, Illinois in 1975, and his journey from impoverished origins was truly amazing. Daniel's early years were characterized by hardship and tenacity, since he was raised by a dedicated single mother. Motivated by a desire to change his situation, he did very well in school and was awarded a scholarship in 1993 to attend the esteemed University of Chicago Booth School of Business. After earning his MBA in 1997, he began working for a modest real estate company where his natural ability to see opportunity and transform financially troubled properties into successful endeavors soon made him stand out. Daniel had already established himself as a prominent figure within the multinational corporation he led by 2005. His adeptness at navigating intricate financial environments and his remarkable ability to forecast market patterns were hallmarks of his success. Under his direction, the business prospered and rose to prominence in every industry. His standing as a cunning businessman and a captivating leader grew, gaining him power and respect in the commercial community. Daniel looked to have it all: a flourishing job, an extravagant lifestyle, and his life seemed to be the definition of success. His wife, Sofi, was well known in the art world. Since establishing her own gallery in 2008, Sofi has established herself as a renowned art dealer, noted for her refined taste and acute sense of developing talent. Her presence was usually noticed at prestigious gallery openings and charity galas, like the 2015 Met Gala and the 2012 Venice Biennale. She was known for adding a touch of elegance to every event. Daniel's social status and job matched Sofi's, and the two of them became a dazzling duo that their contemporaries looked up to. After 12 years of marriage that began in 2007, their partnership seemed to be the picture of stability and prosperity. By 2019, Sofi's gallery had established itself as one of the top locations to find modern art, enhancing her stature in the industry. On November 10, 2012, Daniel and Alexanders attended a well-known charity banquet in Manhattan, where they first met Ethan and Rhea Williams. Held in one of the most opulent locations in the city, the event brought together prominent people from a variety of industries, including technology, finance, and the arts. Renowned for her position in the art world, Sofi was the honoree, while Daniel, a well-known CEO, attended to help his wife and make the occasion a success. During the evening, Ethan Williams, a wealthy and captivating businessman, was taken to Sofi's elegance and wisdom right away. Rhea, who was similarly charming and well-connected, started talking to Daniel right away. The four of them quickly bonded over their shared interests as they got into animated conversations about high society, business, and the arts. As Daniel and Ethan discussed the newest business trends and investment potential, Sofi and Rhea talked about their favorite artists and future exhibits. The conversation flowed naturally. There was no denying the couple's connection, and their initial banter soon developed into a sincere relationship. The William couple invited the Alexander over for a more private get-together as the evening wore on. After both couples enthusiastically accepted the invitation, they began spending weekends together, going to events and discovering new hobbies. Over time, their friendship deepened through regular dinners, cultural excursions, and joint charitable endeavors. It was at one of these get-togethers that personal experimentation and non-traditional lifestyles were discussed. Prominent for their spirit of adventure, Ethan and Rhea proposed the concept of a wife-swapping arrangement, arguing that it would liven up their life and provide some excitement. Intrigued by the concept and seeking a fresh dynamic in their partnership, Daniel and Sofi decided to investigate this new arrangement. This arrangement seemed like a logical continuation of the friendship between the Alexander and the William couple because of their mutual respect and trust. After a period of curiosity and excitement, the couple's exchanges became into a regular feature of their social life. Originally meant to be an exciting and unique distraction from their high-profile life, the wife-swapping arrangement was meant to be daring. It blended their personal and professional life together and soon became a regular element of their social contacts. The Alexander were greatly impacted by Ethan and Rhea, and their shared adoption of this unusual way of life started to strain their bonds. After participating in a wife-swapping arrangement with their partners, Sofi and Ethan Williams started to form close emotional ties in 2017. What had begun as an exciting experience of physical closeness had developed into a close bond. They discovered that they were missing each other's presence, exchanging secrets, and discovering previously undiscovered passions. Sofi and Ethan found it difficult to uphold their arrangement's limits as their friendship grew closer. They began to ponder if their feelings for each other were only a result of their illusion or something more substantial. Meanwhile, Daniel and Rhea, ignorant to the developing heat between their partners, continued to enjoy the pleasures of their unique relationship. They started to covertly meet outside of their scheduled wife-swapping rendezvous. Stolen moments, furtive looks, and whispered vows were a daily part of their existence. There was a spark between Sofi and Ethan that they could not shake when they were with their respective partners, Daniel and Rhea, for their wife-swapping sessions. They would frequently become engrossed in one another's gaze during these sessions, their intimacy and desire for one another beyond anything they had ever experienced with their own spouses. Their interactions grew more passionate and fulfilling than before as they started to yearn for one another's touch. Ignorant of the developing bond between their partners, Daniel and Rhea persisted in the wife-swapping arrangement, not realizing that their husbands were starting to withdraw emotionally and physically from their relationships. The illusion that had united them all in the past was now posing a danger to their separation. Sofi broke the surprising news that she was expecting Ethan's kid on the evening of March 5th. An atmosphere of anxiety and rage permeated the room as everything went quiet. Rhea glanced at Sofi, her face contorted with anger and betrayal, her eyes burning with hate. Her hands were balled into fists, and her body language begged for aggression. Daniel's eyes widened in amazement and hurt, his face flushed scarlet. He didn't appear to be able to take in the information. Attempting to defuse the situation, Ethan moved closer, but Rhea's scowl stopped him cold. His gaze flitted between Rhea and Sofi, uncertain of his next move. The two couples' relationships were on the verge of breaking down, and the atmosphere was electric with tension. The dream of exchanging wives had become a terrifying reality, and it appeared that there was no way out. Sofi passed away in her own blood pool on March 6th. The police got to work on their investigation shortly after the body was discovered. The circumstances behind Sofi's murder have been explained to the detectives. Her husband Daniel, their neighbors, the William couple, and the Alexander maid, Madison, were the only other people around when the murder occurred. At the crime site, a medical examiner showed there. According to the medical examiner's assessment, Sofi died as a result of several knife wounds, most likely from a letter opener. Considering the well-organized crime scene and the absence of any indications of forced entrance or struggle, the examiner's hypothesis suggested that the killing was a premeditated act. This implied that the murderer may have been somebody Sofi knew, someone who had access to the mansion and had prepared the assault beforehand. When the police questioned Daniel and the William couple, they both made the same claim. When questioned about their locations on the day Sofi passed away, each of them stated that they were in separate sections of the estate and were not aware of what had transpired. Their alibis were investigated, but there was no other worker or witness to validate their confirming testimonies. But the cops were still suspicious that one of them could be hiding something, so they kept looking into it. The police were investigating and pursuing many leads as part of their continuing operations. In the meantime, the statements made by Daniel and the William couple were being closely examined for any discrepancies or any hints that were overlooked. They claimed that it was the maid Madison who had called out to them, letting them know that Sophie was dead. They stated that they were not aware of the circumstances leading up to Sophie's death until they were called to the scene by Madison's desperate pleas for assistance. When Madison was questioned further, she gave her account of what happened. She stated that she had heard Sophie's voice coming from below while she had been upstairs going about her regular business. She claimed to have heard Sophie talking to someone, but she was unable to identify the person or understand their conversation. When she descended the steps to look around, she saw a terrible sight. She witnessed an unidentified attacker stabbing Sophie many times before turning and running from the area. Claiming to have been too stunned and scared to step in, Madison had contacted Daniel and the William couple right away and asked for assistance. But the cops saw that Madison was being vague on several things and that her account appeared to have been prepared. She maintained that she was speaking the truth despite their repeated requests for further details. The police kept looking into Madison's possible role in Sophie's murder because they weren't persuaded. Sophie's corpse was transported that day for autopsy, and upon release of the results, the medical examiner's report said that Sophie was certainly pregnant and that there were evidence of a violent fight on her body. Despite the lack of DNA on her body, the investigator was intrigued by one unusual feature. Her hand wound had a little, quite invisible thread of cloth stuck in it. Subsequent investigation showed that the thread matched the couch fabric in the Alexander's family's living room. This implied that the murderer might have been inside the house, either before or after the murder, and might have been sitting on the couch. When the murderer got up or shifted during the struggle, the thread might have come loose from the couch and unintentionally got caught in Sophie's wound. The police inquiry proceeded with a series of individual interviews the next day. In one room, Daniel, still in shock over his wife's death, was questioned. In another, the William couple, along with their maid Madison, were questioned. There were differences found in their claims when they were requested to provide a thorough account of what they did the night before the murder. Daniel said he had been working late in his study and had neither heard or seen anything out of the ordinary. Rhea claimed to be in their bedroom, reading a book, while Alan claimed to have been watching TV in the room upstairs. But the maid Madison admitted that she had witnessed Rhea and Sophie fighting in the living room at about 10 o'clock at night, and that she had subsequently seen Alan and Sophie together at about 10:30 at night. When the maid revealed further information, the police began to wonder more since the William couple accounts did not add up to what Madison had told them. What were they concealing, and who was speaking the truth? Every minute that passed, the inquiry grew more intricate. Sensing that Madison may be an important witness, the police continued to question her. They wanted her to go into more detail about the William couple regular trips to the Alexander home. After pausing, Madison disclosed a startling revelation. She had seen that at their get-togethers, the William couple and Alexander would switch spouses. It was a frequent event, and Madison had gotten accustomed to watching the couples trade partners. The cops were astonished by this information. They had suspected an affair, but not a mutually agreed-upon plan to switch wives. The police hauled Daniel and the William couple in for more interrogation, armed with the fresh information from Madison. To their astonishment, when they individually questioned each of them about their involvement in a wife-swapping scheme, they all acknowledged it. It was verified by Daniel, Ethan, and Rhea that they had been trading partners, and that it had been a mutually agreed-upon arrangement between the two spouses. They insisted that it was only a harmless exercise meant to enliven their marriages and discover new relationships. As the inquiry went on, Rhea and Daniel came to light as the main suspects in Sophie's murder. The pregnancy had been found to be an obvious motivation by the police. The authorities now had good grounds to suspect that Rhea, as Ethan's wife, would have had a purpose to kill Sophie, since Ethan had earlier disclosed that Sophie was expecting his child. Rhea's motivations for committing the murder may have included betrayal, jealousy, and a desire to preserve her marriage. Likewise, If Sofi's adultery and pregnancy with another man's kid had made him feel betrayed, Daniel, Sofi's husband, would have had a reason to kill her. The police began to question if he could have been more engaged in the events of that tragic night than he had previously claimed, because his prior alibi of working in his study now sounded dubious. Rhea and Daniel were brought in by the police for another interrogation, this time with an emphasis on their possible motivations and any evidence that may connect them to the crime. In an attempt to link Rhea and Daniel DNA samples with any evidence gathered from Sofi's body, the police also took Rhea's DNA. They did, however, find no evidence of their DNA at the murder scene or on Sofi's body following extensive testing. The police had no choice but to free Rhea and Daniel from custody because there was no tangible evidence connecting them to the crime. Their dubious alibis and suspicious behavior notwithstanding, the police lacked sufficient proof to imprison them. Their attorneys had been pushing for their release, pointing to the lack of concrete evidence linking them to Sofi's slaying. Nothing damning was discovered during the police's investigation of their laptops, phones, and possessions. No fingerprints, no DNA, and no questionable contacts or transactions. They appeared to have taken great effort to hide their footprints. Or maybe they were just being honest about their innocence. The lawyers and the court's pressure grew as the police struggled to locate any tangible proof. The police were aware that they could not detain Rhea and Daniel without bringing charges against them. They reluctantly decided to let them go, thinking that maybe more research might turn up fresh information. Rhea and Daniel were relieved yet unnerved by their experience as they departed the holding facility. They insisted on their innocence, saying they had been falsely charged and that they were happy to be free again. Still, the police were dubious and continued to monitor them as they carried out their inquiry. The authorities secured a warrant to search the Alexanders' house 2 days after they had freed Rhea and Daniel. Madison, meantime, had been called in for more interrogation the day before. Madison's hand had a minor cut that the police discovered during a standard interrogation session. When they questioned her about it, her explanation alarmed them. The detective became interested in her tale since it appeared erratic and evasive. Her hand cut was too neat and exact to be caused by a shattered glass. The suspicions of the police regarding a knife wound were strengthened by Madison's tense demeanor. After deciding to look into the matter more, the investigators got a search warrant for the Alexanders' home. Equipped with cutting-edge tools, a group of forensic specialists, and a mission to unearth fresh evidence, they arrived to the estate. With a new search warrant in hand, the police could thoroughly inspect the property once more, but this time they would be armed with cutting-edge equipment and new eyes. The group of forensic specialists started to unpack their equipment, which included collecting kits, specialized lighting, and cameras, as soon as they got out of their cars. The policemen, under the command of the resolute detective, were poised to help, eyes darting over the exterior of the mansion as though looking for any sign of what may be within. The team's goal was very clear: to look everywhere, investigate every area, and gather all possible evidence. They would reinterrogate the employees, revisit the crime scene, and re-examine every bit of previously gathered evidence. Every nook and cranny was thoroughly examined in the painstaking quest for hints. And then they discovered the murder weapon inside the incinerator, a half-burnt but unidentifiable kitchen knife found stuck in the ash. The officers removed the knife with caution so as not to tamper with any possible evidence. After bagging it, they submitted it to the lab for examination. One big development in the case was the finding of the murder weapon. Now that they had tangible proof, the police could connect the murderer to the crime. Ethan and Madison, who were still under house arrest, were being questioned again regarding the knife and the incinerator. The lab findings showed an unexpected finding. The kitchen knife's handle bore Madison's fingerprint. It was simple to match because the police had already taken her fingerprints and DNA during the first inquiry. With the addition of this fresh evidence, the police were able to apprehend Madison on March 20th and charge her with Sofi's murder. She appeared shocked and afraid when she was hauled into prison. She confessed when the cops questioned her more. Sofi had discovered Madison stealing from the living room safe, according to Madison. After Sofi threatened to call the police, there was fighting. Madison's hand reached automatically for the one she had attempted to open the safe in a panic. In a fit of desperation, she stabbed Sofi, not meaning to murder. The detectives listened closely as Madison spilt her confession, detailing the sequence of events that ended with Michael's untimely demise. The truth about the murder had finally been revealed by the inquiry. Fear and desperation had drove Madison's actions, and the result had been disastrous. After apprehending Madison, the police accused her of killing Sofi. The prosecution refuted the defense's attempt to claim that Madison had acted in self-defense by pointing out that there was ample proof of her desire to kill. Following hours of deliberation, the jury returned a guilty judgment. Madison was given a life sentence without the prospect of release by the judge. Madison's face fell as the sentence was read out, and she fell back in her chair, sobbing with sadness. Throughout the trial, the Alexanders family had been there, but they shown no emotion as the punishment was given. Sofi was already lost to them, and now they witnessed justice being done. Madison knew she would be incarcerated for the rest of her life, tormented by the memory of the crimes she had committed as she was brought away in handcuffs. The previously modest and peaceful maid was now going to face the ultimate price after it was discovered that she was a vicious killer.